So I'm assuming everyone in this room eats cheese pretty much every day, I'm assuming too, as it is such a staple part of the average American diet. But does anyone here know what rennet is? Okay, didn't think so. When I took the 1329 food science class back when I thought about majoring in it, which I've since decided not to, but still an interesting subject, I learned about rennet and like the cheese making industry and all that. But before taking that class, I had watched a lot of documentaries as a documentary enthusiast, and I had learned a lot of this stuff before taking the class, but I had never heard of rennet. Okay. And according to the fact sheet on the Vegetarian Society's website, rennet is used as an enzyme that coagulates the cheese and separates the solid cheese curds from the whey. And another relatively unknown fact about the cheese-making process is whey is actually a byproduct, and so think about that whenever you have your little whey protein drinks in the powder. And according to Tammy Furtick's article, Say Cheese, you will not find rennet on any cheese food labels whatsoever. Actually, you will just vaguely see the words enzymes. But you don't know where those enzymes are coming from, whether they're animal origin or plant origin. And it's actually not required by law to elaborate any further about it. And according to an excerpt from the Columbia Electronic Encyclopedia called rennet, rennet is actually obtained from slaughtering baby calves and using their stomach lining, which I thought was gross. But the unweaned calves have an active enzyme in their stomach called chymosin, and it's only found in unweaned baby calves. You will not find it in adult calves or anything. Although sometimes they will use maybe like goats and pigs and stuff, but most often it's calves. So when calves drink their mother's milk, the chymosin converts their milk into a soft cheese-like substance, and it essentially makes it so they digest it a lot slower and you absorb way more nutrients. And the cheese-making process basically mimics that natural process in a cow's stomach in a vat. And when I first learned about this in class, my professor actually did a cheese making demonstration. He did mozzarella cheese and he pulled out this jar. It kind of looked like a jar of vitamins, and that's kind of what it looked like. And he explained it to us as rennet, although you can also get it in a liquid form. But as he was explaining it, I couldn't help but think about how gross it was and who even discovered something like this. But according to the history of rennet at rennet.co, it was actually the ancient Egyptians that discovered rennet and its uses about 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. And it was most likely an accident because it was a common practice at the time to use the dried intestines of animals to hold liquids like water and milk. And they figured out that it was the specific fourth stomach of baby calves that caused the milk to curdle. And as a result of that, it preserved it a lot longer, and so thus started the process. And although rennet has been around for a very long time, in more recent years lately, there has been an increase in desire of alternative rennet sources. And so there are many ways to get rennet without slaughtering baby calves. And according to Kate Arding and Elaine Kostrova, their article, Rennet's Role, there are actually 3 main ways to get rennet without, vegetarian rennet. Just natural vegetable rennet, microbial, and genetically modified rennet. Although with all these options, it is still generally preferred to use the traditional method just because of taste preferences. I don't think I've ever tried vegetarian rennet. It's not very widely accessible yet, but it's still a thing. And while an overwhelming majority of cheeses use rennet to coagulate, there are a few that just don't naturally need them at all. And they're generally soft cheeses like ricotta and cream cheese and cottage cheese. And according to Linda Johnson Larson's article, are there any cheeses that don't contain rennet? And in her article, she lists about a dozen different cheeses that don't contain it at all. And it's verified by Rice University. I personally didn't recognize any of the brands except for Kraft Philadelphia cream cheese, which is generally a more popular cream cheese brand. Although rennet has been used for thousands of years, recent concerns about animal welfare have led to an increase in alternative sources of it. But in conclusion, all of y'all eat cheese, I'm assuming daily, but don't always know the ingredients and the origins and the process used to make it. And now that y'all are a little bit more informed about the process used, especially on how cheese coagulates, next time y'all eat cheese, you might think about my gross speech and, I don't know, remember that.